Finally, we have benchmarks for AMD's next-gen GPUs. Cooler Master wants to sell you their egg, and Nvidia is actually officially dropping pricing. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast. And just a reminder that we do have hot news available as a podcast on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, whether that be Apple, Spotify, the Google ones that people listen to. Just check the link in the video description in case you want to listen to hot news, in case you can't peruse me with your eyeballs. And we got to peruse the RX 7900 benchmarks that have come out as reviewers are starting to get their hands on these GPUs. It does appear like some of these numbers are making their way into online databases, even maybe when they shouldn't be. So these are only synthetic benchmarks. These are not video game benchmarks, but Geekbench 5 showing off that the claims by AMD for their GPUs might not be unfounded. AMD seemingly being modestly truthful with the 7900 XTX performance, which is specifically the device that we have measured here on a Ryzen 7 7700X CPU. And what we can see is that the Vulkan score and the OpenCL score being compared to RTX 4080 and RTX 4090 puts it below the 4090, which AMD has constantly said that they are not competing with the 4090. If you want the fastest gaming GPU out on the market, it's going to be the 4090. But if you take a look at Vulkan performance, the 7900 XTX beats the 4080, and in OpenCL performance, it loses to the 4080, which makes a lot of sense because AMD has kind of been winning in video games, but not necessarily in raw compute power. So it losing in OpenCL does track. So it's 15% better than the 4080 in Vulkan. It's 14% worse than the 4080 in OpenCL. But the most important portion that you need to pay attention to is that it is 16% cheaper, which just obviously gives it a much better value. AMD has been punching above its weight class in video game performance versus its raw compute power. So take the OpenCL one with a grain of salt. Seeing the Vulkan benchmarks does align. It's a cheaper GPU that is beating the 4080, and that's, I think, exactly where AMD wants to come in with the XTX. And while we're still waiting on the XT GPUs, hopefully it's only a few percentage points lower, especially for that $100 cheaper. Let me know, does this excite you? Is this where you thought numbers would lie? Want to hear from you down below in the comments. But we're also getting some word from Asus and other companies on their third-party models that they're going to be releasing on these next-gen GPUs. And the Asus Tough OC and regular are the first ones that we're actually getting clock speed details, because one of the rumors that we heard before all these companies were announcing things was that we could potentially see up to 3 gigahertz boost clock because you had the extra 8-pin power connector. Turns out that that likely won't be true, especially on something like the Tough model, which is only about 4 to 8.7% faster than the reference model that AMD is coming out with. So not ever hitting that 3 gigahertz mark. The OC mode on the 7900 XTX goes up to 2615. Maybe in overclocking, it remains to be seen. We're going to need to see all of these details in third-party benchmarks in order for us to get a good idea of what's going on. And here's a good idea of what's going on in the Cryptostonks setup. Bitcoin down 1% to be below $17,000 again, 16,932. Ethereum down 2% to be at 1255, and Dogecoin down 3.05% to be at just north of 10 cents. And Reece is just south of me, because he's in South Africa. Give us the UFD deals.
Hey, welcome back to UFD Deals. We bring you the hottest tech deals out on the internet. I am still all bruised up and sore from this weekend. We went paintballing for my cousin's bachelor party. I have never seen a bigger group of nerds just like running around completely unfit, out of breath, dying practically on the field, but it was so much fun. But I know you guys are here for the deal, so let me get you started with the Razer Kiyo Pro streaming webcam. Technically any webcam is a streaming webcam, but this is a 1080p 60 FPS capable camera with wide angle field of view, going for only $99.99, which is 50% off. But then we have the Sennheiser HT600, which are some of my favorite open bag headphones that I've ever used before. I will fight tooth and nail to defend these headphones because they were just that good. I used them every day in the studio for years at one point, and I honestly would love to get another pair. At an only $277.62, they are 31% off, and probably one of the lowest prices I've seen them going for. But another thing I really want to pick up myself is this Elegoo, I don't quite know how to say that brand name, but they're a Saturn S resin 3D printer. You can pick up this 3D printer for only $359.99, which is $190 off. But one thing you'll need is a cure box, and thankfully Elegoo also make one with their Mercury Plus 2.0, which is a large wash and cure machine with a turntable built in, going for only $89.99, which is $35 off. At that price, you could actually buy 2 of these with how much you're saving on the 3D printer. I don't know why you would do that, but you could. And speaking of things they did because they could, the Asus ROG Thor 850, which is their 850 watt fully modular 80 plus platinum power supply with a little OLED panel showing your exact power draw. I remember seeing this thing for the first time at Computex. They had like this whole display. It was totally over the top. Thankfully, power supplies don't age like other components, so we're still judging them based on efficiency, unless someone tells me they're like replacing that whole efficiency scale, and then I'm gonna have to fight someone. But luckily you can pick this up for $139.99, which is $110 off. But if that's a bit too out there for you, then maybe something that's even more out there, like the Superflower ARGB power supply. The 750 watt 80 plus gold power supply with addressable RGB on the freaking ports. It's cool. It's cool. I don't know what else you want from me. It's really cool. It's only $99.99, which is $70 off, but you could have the most out there RGB PC you could imagine. And last but not least, we have the Lenovo Legion Slim 7, which has an AMD Ryzen 7 5800H, 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, two 1TB NVMe SSDs, and a GeForce RTX 3060 Max Q. With all that driving a 15.6 inch Full HD 165Hz display, you can pick this up for only $1,199, which is $510 off. And don't forget, you can find the links to these and more in the video description. And with that, back to the rest of your hot news. Shoo, go, goodbye. Vamos. Futzak.
Thank you, Reece. Maybe I could use some of those deals, I don't know what they are, in order to play Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which now got its release date as well as PC requirements. It's going to be coming out on March 16th, 2023, and the minimum requirements are going to be a GTX 1070 or an RX 580, which is very interesting. 4 cores, 8 threads of an i7 7700 or a Ryzen 5 1400. Minimum requirements are creeping up these days. That's a pretty decent system from a few years ago. And then if we look at recommended, they're suggesting that you have an RTX 2070 or a 6700 XT with an 11600K or 5600X. It's very, very demanding game, looks like, but you can enjoy it in your little Cooler Master egg, because Cooler Master at least putting out a page where you can get on the waiting list if they could format it properly, which they didn't because they put the break. Anyways, we're not going to talk about bad website design. You can join the waiting list for the Orb X, which is their immersive gaming pod for you to play video games in, and you can have a ultra wide monitor or 3 27-inch monitors, and it reclines and it's supposed to be really good. They haven't said price point, they haven't said release date. They don't even tell you what they're doing with your information when you're signing up for the waiting list. So of course I signed up for it. We'll see where my data gets leaked to. But likely this is gonna cost a very pretty penny. Acer had their Thronos chair that was like 20 grand. I can't imagine that this would come in less than 10 grand. I don't even know how you ship this. Like this is gonna be a problematic thing for people to buy. I'm surprised that they're even considering putting it on sale. It's ridiculous. But one thing that's been on sale that's been at a ridiculous price has been GPUs from Nvidia, and now they are 5% cheaper, which you would think might be because AMD is coming out with GPUs that are highly competitive, and so them dropping their prices by 5% in Europe, an official 5% price drop from Nvidia, would be because of direct competition. Nvidia says otherwise. They're saying it's because of the strengthening of the euro to the US dollar, so the exchange rate doesn't make sense for the price point to be 1949 for the 4090 anymore. Instead, it should be 1859 euro, and then the 4080 is going down to 1399 euro instead of the 1469, again because of exchange rate, not because they're scared of AMD whopping their little cods wallops. I don't know what that means, but it sounds British enough, which Britain's not part of the EU anymore, so none of that worked. We'll see how things go when AMD launches their GPUs in a week, whether or not AMD might sing a different tune. We'll find out. And you'll find out. Hot news tomorrow.